I'm Sora Luxon, and this is Magic Lesson 16, To Thy Own Self Be True. Because I think it's about time I start explaining how being depolarized, far from meaning being glassy-eyed and accepting of everything, right? Like some clone drone sheep, is actually all about being completely individuated, coming from a very real sense and state of selfdom. And this can seem counterintuitive since depolarization has to do with releasing the need to constantly have opinions about everything and anything, right? About always either assenting or dissenting in a state of constant judgment all the time. So I've had a lot of questions about this recently, so I wanted to get into how depolarization actually doesn't negate the individuated self. Now that we've been over Hermetic laws, or at least you've listened to them once through in the playlist I made, hopefully, right? And you're working with applying your new understanding of the law of polarity by training to be less polarized in real life. And with all of your new insights about the deep implications and workings of both the conscious and subconscious mind, because you're working with that now too, along with the fundamentals of how the traits of both the feminine, passive, right, and masculine, active forces of the mind have to be mixed correctly in order to manifest what we want created, right? And to work with magic itself. Now that you've started getting a handle on all of that, we can move on to how to access magic more directly with the mind and how to start going over the specifics of things like depolarization not being a lack of selfdom. We can go over it in a little more detail and with a little more applicable power of understanding behind it, because now that you're beginning to find your way to center, now that you're more centered and grounded, you can start to see things as they really are. And you've probably begun noticing a lot of instances of your own depolarized state presenting itself along with new intuitions and abilities during your day, especially perhaps around others that are in a highly polarized state, or at the very least you can now see that for what it is, right? So magicians, hermeticists, alchemists, Wiccans, priests, magic users of all sorts, you'll hear us go on and on and on about the law of polarity and the fundamental necessity of becoming depolarized and grounded, like I'm going on about it right now, because it's so central to any other part or type of magic or magical working. You simply cannot enter into the conduit of energies correctly, manipulate them, or even recognize them for what they are without first being grounded and depolarized. If you're sitting around being opinionated, thinking you know the truth from your singular and limited perspective, being argumentative, having reactions to anyone and everyone and anything or everything, right, based on those things, singular and limited perspectives, you're delusional. You really are. You're not coming from a place where you can see clearly. And you can't accomplish much in a state of delusion, magically or otherwise. If you want to work with magic, you have to begin thinking like a magical practitioner. And that includes understanding things on a whole different level than the majority of people are conditioned to perceive things from. Does that mean that you aren't allowed to agree or disagree with things, right? No, of course not. Your path, whatever it is, it's going to be yours and yours alone, no matter what. No matter who you engage with or who engages with you, what kind of teachers you have or gurus you follow. You shouldn't, by the way. Your path is still going to be yours. You are the only one that's going to be responsible for it in the end. And it's going to be completely individuated to who you are and the choices you've made. That's common sense. it's going to be individuated to what information you have chosen to gain, and then when and how you've chosen to apply it in your life or not. That's another way of looking at it. Understanding that, this bigger principle of looking from an overview, if you will, of the whole, or as close as you can come to it, and then making informed decisions that are informed by all sides of a debate, say. That's depolarization. And you really can't get there if you're on one side or the other of the debate, or if you're too busy watching the debate happen, right? To step back from it and see it for what it is rather than engaging with it or in it. When you step back from it and see it for what it is, you see the universal law of polarity playing itself out. A law that you can both use to create the best possible version of yourself that you want to be for you. And a law that you can ascend above to some extent, thereby alleviating some of its effects, if not outright control over you and your waking life and future outcomes, which it does have over most people. In all my years of being around occultists and working with the occult in my own life and in my own way, I can say this much to everyone publicly. The real occult, or most genuine, the most sincerely authentic practitioners of the great work, right? Because we're all flawed, we all make mistakes, and we're never perfect. But the people that are sincerely pursuing the great work, let's put it that way, they adore being disagreed with. Now, notice I didn't say argued with, because people of power, occult or otherwise, generally don't argue. They neither need nor wish to, and recognize the futility of such a base exercise of behavioral repetition, right? And people don't argue with them, or don't argue with them for very long anyway. As I've mentioned before, occultists, people of high wisdom, internal strength, standing of uncontestable worth, they tend to be the quietest in any given room, right? They're listening, they're learning, they're not really needing to talk. They're the quiet one in any room on any given day, with or without an argument also being in a room with them. So when I say disagreed with, I don't mean argued with. I don't mean go argue with occultists. I just mean that occultists adore being disagreed with. And disagreeing isn't arguing. These people, real practitioners of the craft, and you'd be surprised who some of the best of them around you are in your own life right now, right? They don't all wander around calling themselves magis or saints or priests. That doesn't mean that they're not working with the occult and practicing real magic in their life or in yours. These are the people that adore being disagreed with, because being disagreed with doesn't bother them the way it would bother a polarized person, one. Two, it gives them access to a different perspective to draw from, and they know that and value it. Three, it allows them to integrate and gain a greater wealth of knowledge and insight that they couldn't have gotten themselves without another's perspective adding to their own. Four, occultists respect, possibly more than anyone else, that we all have the right to be who we are. Because who we are, each and every individuated one of us, with all of our perfect flaws, all of our infinite differing traits, is a part of the universe expressing itself. Magical practitioners understand this on the most fundamental level, that you are how the universe is choosing to be. It's how the universe is choosing to express itself in form. So if you walk up to me, an occultist, right, and say, croissants are the best and donuts are the worst thing, I, as an occultist, don't have any gut reaction to that other than to be glad and like that you've brought this possible disagreement to me, right? I, as an occultist, can say, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. That opinion must have mattered so much. It must have mattered a great deal to you for you to expend the energy necessary to share it with me. Thank you for taking the time to do so. Thank you so much, part of the universe in human form, for choosing to approach me and render to me this information. I don't feel a need to agree or disagree with it because I'm too busy respecting the form that you've come to me with. This person talking words about opinions of breakfast foodstuffs, another experience, another point of view. Right? Now, obviously, you probably shouldn't go around saying that to something or someone that's arguing with you. You definitely shouldn't go around saying things similar to that to the people who are constantly functioning around you from a polarized state, thinking that they know what the truth is about things, right? Even if it's a truth as trivial as donuts versus croissants. You don't want to go around saying those things for all of the obvious reasons, right? It's going to create a bigger argument, possibly. They're going to take it the wrong way, not understand where you're coming from, perceive you as being insane. That's going to take more time. It's too time consuming. But you get what I'm saying here. That is what you as an occultist are saying on the inside. Whatever is coming up to you and presenting to you is a form of the universe in expression. And you don't have to waste your time with that valued expression, agreeing or disagreeing with it. Instead, you can be gaining the knowledge or information that's being given to you by it. Real magic users like differences. Even if it's differences from how they feel about things. Like, even if I prefer croissants, I'm gonna want to hear about someone else's preference for donuts. Tell me all about donuts, right? I hate donuts. Tell me why you love them. I don't actually hate donuts. I'm just saying that is how a real magic user is functioning mentally. Most, if not all of the time. Because we like differences. And we certainly don't mind being confronted with new or different opinions than our own. Magic doesn't require conformity. So when we're talking about depolarization, we're talking about releasing automatic judgment forming. We aren't talking about becoming a drone, right? Magic doesn't need drones. It can't use drones, and it can't work with you if you are a drone. Unlike a cult where nothing can ever be challenged or a leader's views can't be challenged, right? Magic requires the user to challenge not only everything, but also his or her own self. Constantly, you're constantly asked to challenge yourself, your own views, your own opinions, to be seeking out new perspectives, gaining further insights, learning from your experiences, right? So that in challenging yourself and challenging everything, the most wonderful, utmostly respected, perfect, individuated part of the whole, that is you, yourself, just like everyone else, can be exactly what it can be and fulfill its highest potential as you and as you choose to be. So, to thy own self be true. Until next time.